Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clayton and James Show. My name's James, and I don't want to be here.
Come on. Did you enjoy last night, James?
Oh yeah, terrific. Yeah, it was quite an emotional moment when Thomas Muller, having announced that he'd leave Bayern Munich, scored the equalising goal on the night, only for them to blow it against Inter Milan late on. On the Clayton and James Show this week, when we're talking about Newcastle's victory at Leicester on Monday night, we talk about Kevin De Bruyne has also obviously announced he's going to be leaving Manchester City at the end of this season. We will touch on SWAT, semi-automated assistant technology or semi-automated offside technology. Eurofocus is taking us to Poland again this week with Legia Warszawa. On this day is a Champions League game from 2002. I was going to do Everton against Tottenham, but my mood was from 1995, but my mood is just not wanting to do that right now. So I picked a Champions League game from 2002. All right, I'm going to the toilet. Off you go.
I don't know where to start. I just yesterday just didn't feel real. I yeah. For the audio listeners, James has literally just put his head down. He's not listening. He's not looking. But
Let
I
me ask you a
mean,
question on serious. Is that Arsenal's best night at the Emirates?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
was
that.
in the pub late last night, and we were all debating that. And I drink with quite a lot of older fans at Arsenal as well. And I was asking them; they've been going longer than I have and stuff. I said to them, "Is that for you guys that have been home and away everywhere? Where does that rank?" And yeah, they comfortably said for them, the best night the Emirates has ever seen. It's definitely the best one I've been to. Oh my god, like, I'm very very privileged to have been there last night. It felt unbelievable. It was the whole experience from the minute we drew them, right? Like I remember you and I were talking weeks ago about who I
I'm looking at
wanted.
my face. I'm going to get memes of hell here.
But yeah, I wanted Real Madrid, not from the. I mean, I did think we had a chance against them, but it was like it's Real Madrid. This is what for years I remember when we were an absolute laughing stock. I mean, you know me quite well. I love the Champions League knockout stages. For me, that is the best quality of football you can get, in my opinion, when it gets to these crunch stages. The moments you see, the tempo, the pace, the power. And I used to watch from my settee, like just with envy for years, thinking we weren't going to get there. And then obviously we got back there last year. But even rewinding from that, I think it's the build up of the experiences you feel on that journey. Like I was there on that Monday night at Newcastle. I got the coach from the Emirates at, I think, 12 o'clock midday it was for, I guess it would have been an 8 o'clock kickoff in that 21-22 season. We obviously got battered by Newcastle, missed out on top four. And like these things stay with you and on that journey. Like you hold on to them when you get to there. And obviously Tottenham pipped us to top four. Like in your headspace, you're thinking, oh, when is it going to happen? We finally get back into the top four. The first get back into the Champions League. It was PSV at home. Kind of go through that campaign. I was there at the Allianz last year. Again, that pain, it stays with you. And then kind of find ourselves in our second season back in it in the quarterfinal again. And it's like, okay, this time it's Real Madrid. Bloody hell. Last year was cool when we had Bayern Munich, cool in the sense of like, wow, it's a big tie again, but we're not going to go in expecting a 10-2 slapping. We're competitive. And albeit we lost, but yeah, that pain sticks with you when you're there in the Allianz in the away end. And last night was just unbelievable. I mean, for context, I had a uni essay due on Friday, right, this week, and I've got shit going on that I need to deal with tomorrow and
I
Friday.
mean,
So
like, if you haven't got time for this podcast, that's absolutely fine.
I for my own schedule, I had to get it done and submitted today, and I was trying to do it Monday night, and I just could not concentrate. All I was thinking about was Real Madrid Arsenal. Yesterday, I got it done in time, and I think I was in the pub at about 4 o'clock, and I mean, I even got into the area about 3 o'clock. That the whole atmosphere around the area was unbelievable. It was a nice sunny day, just everyone was up for it. And I think it translated. I don't know how it came across on the telly, but the atmosphere was incredible pre-game. And Arteta was vocal calling for it and everything. And I think we matched it and delivered. And then naturally when the whistle goes, I think there's a bit of tension and it goes a bit edgy, a bit quiet in periods. But then once you get those moments, like the Declan Rice free kicks. Oh my god! I mean,
Which one was better?
second one.
That second one, it's one of the best free kicks I've ever seen.
You can't do that on FIFA like that. It's I can't.
It was,
That,
when we say, oh, he put it top bin, that was a literal, if you had, the old soccer AM where they used to actually have
yeah,
the
put the bin
dustbin
in the
in the
corner. Yeah,
corner, it would have gone in.
yeah.
It's outrageous, mate.
There's a still doing the rounds where someone's just frozen it, and it's exactly that. Like you say, it's going into that soccer and bin in the top corner. But I mean, it's. I know there were two free kicks, but I just felt we outclassed them, in my opinion. I thought we were absolutely fantastic. Like, and I'm not denying. There were a couple of wobbly moments at the start. Saka miskicked the ball, and I think it fell to Vinicius maybe, and he was kind of running in. He hit it off Saliba when he was trying to play an Mbappe. I remember Kivior gave a ball away. Odegaard looked a little bit nervous on the ball, and that was the first goal.
I was just going to say, I felt like they had towards the end of the first half, it was like you dominated the first period and had the better efforts. But it felt to me there was a period sort of 30 to 40 where they'd got their kind of their eye in and their range of what they were playing against. And I thought at half time, I actually felt fairly comfortable. I'm obviously not wanting you to win, so I'm obviously looking for the opposition to do well. And I thought half time, I thought, yeah, I feel right about this. And I mean, the goals just led to a fucking explosion of what happened to Madrid. You know what fucking really annoyed me? Obviously, there's a lot that annoyed me. But when the first one went in, which is a great free kick from Rice, I'm sure if Courtois could go back and knew that Declan Rice could do that, he would have put his ball a further yard to the left. But Rice really does set it out quite wide. But the pan to like Mbappe and Bellingham, one after the other on the camera, and they were looking up, but I don't think it was like a looking up to like, oh, I'm looking up to the heavens, like I want help. I think they wanted to watch the goal back, and
No,
I thought it was really weird
yeah, that is weird.
because it was clear that obviously you could hear the noises of the crowd reacting to the replay being shown again in the ground. I felt they were watching it, and I was like, you can't be
I mean,
doing that, man.
Mbappe's reaction for the, I think it was the second one's quite funny. He just kind of does like a, well, fair enough face.
Yeah,
But yeah, unbelievable. I think just player by player, they were just too. Even Kivior, like again on Patreon, I've been speaking. I've been quite concerned about the idea of him playing. I thought he, other than one misplaced pass in the first half, quite early on, he was very good. Miles Lewis Skelly, 18 years old. I mean, watching his rise this season, especially because I'd seen him and Warnairi together, and Warnairi's the one that everyone within Arsenal has been excited about. And I think the first Carling Cup appearance was against Bolton, I want to say this season. But like Lewis Skelly's trajectory this season has been absolutely incredible. His power on the ball with the technique with it is insane. Like I don't know if you would agree with this, but I'd see a lot of similarities with Moussa Dembele in him. I really do in the way he carries with the ball and drives and stuff. But a just unbelievable performance from him. Like I said, Kivior Timber, what he's done this season on the back of an ACL has
yeah. I
just
think
been.
that gets quite forgotten with Timber. He almost feels like he joined you last summer.
Yeah, Rice, enough said. And even Saka, like, I mean, it was clear he wasn't fit, but what he was still able to do while not being fit is just mind blowing. And Marino,
I
he's.
disagree with that he didn't look fit. I think he looked
Oh,
absolutely
really?
fine. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. From my seat, I thought he looked a little bit off it personally, but he was still kind of creating threat, generating chances and stuff. It was just absolute privilege to be there. Like, these are the sort of nights that you live for as a fan, I think. And I think it will be one of those you kind of look back and say in 10, 15, 20 years that like I was there sort of thing. And again, I
As
think it's.
long as you
Oh
don't piss
yeah,
it up the wall
as long
next
as we don't
week.
fuck it next
Yeah,
week, yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like my headspace is very much like it's halftime. Like I'm very
shut
happy
up,
about.
man.
No, like because I
It's
mean
over, man. It's finished.
nothing's over in football, in my opinion.
I
It's
think it's more likely that you go and win the second leg than they turn that round,
I,
mate.
I agree, but like it's not a 0% chance.
No, no, no. Of course it's not because things can happen in football. I mean, the biggest thing you need to do next week is have discipline. But in terms of having discipline, I would almost have more faith in your team than any other team around. Probably like so you and Inter Milan under this circumstance, you think, yeah, they're the two teams I'd really, really trust, like defensively, to be sensible and not do something silly like dive into a stupid tackle or anything like that. You're obviously a lot of what Mbappe and Vinicius and even Rodrigo to an extent as well obviously thrive on is space. You ain't gonna let it happen, mate.
No, I agree, but Champions League knockout. Look, mate, weird shit happens. I think it would be silly to go there thinking it is done, despite
No,
the kind of
you're not
scoreline.
you're not going to because you know even if it's not gone through your head, like, and this would happen to all football fans. I experienced, I referenced this on our Patreon podcast, Tottenham this morning, about when we beat Dortmund 3-0 at home and coming out the ground. And the first voice I heard was, if you ain't even thought about losing 4-0 next week, you ain't even Tottenham.
Mm.
And I'm sure it's gone through your mind, like, what's the consequence of you actually like blowing it next week and stuff. But with your team and even with them stylistically, I just don't see it. Of course, it's not done. If they score after like 5 minutes, or even to be honest, even if it was like 1-0 at half time, if they then nick the second with 10 minutes to go, you know what's coming in the final 10 minutes. It's going to be massive backs against the wall. Are Real Madrid capable of winning a football match by 3 goals and taking it to extra time? Yeah, of course they are, mate. And them, because of the enigma of what they've been in this competition, makes you think if any team could do it, it's them. Barcelona lost 4-0 in Paris and won the second leg 6-1. But I don't see your team, for whatever criticism people might have of Arsenal, I don't see your team being fallible to that hiding by anybody.
No.
When was the last time we lost the game by 3 goals, mate?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's the other thing I was proud of last night. Like, I think last year when we played against Bayern, it did feel a little bit like we were playing within ourselves. There was a little bit like too much respect. And last night, I did not get a feeling at all of nervousness or playing the badge of the opposition or like the. We always speak. You literally referenced it a couple of minutes ago, like the heritage and the aura of Real Madrid. Like, I didn't feel any of that, and I think like the manager, the way he sets us up in these big games, it blows my mind. We are so competitive in every single big game. And to be honest, I mean, you know where I am on it, but I find the takes on him sometimes absolutely laughable. Like, I think he is, in my opinion, going to become the litmus test of what people's football IQ is. You know, there's always that player on like, or what do you think about them? And then you kind of judge people on their football knowledge. I think Arteta as a manager is going to become that guy. And I
You
think
mean
in
like how Guardiola's been heralded? Is that what you're saying?
no, what I'm saying is, you know, there's like there used to be players growing up that certain people would rate, certain people wouldn't. And for those that knew ball, you knew like, oh, someone didn't rate that player. You don't really need to listen to their opinions. I think Arteta as a manager is going to become that litmus test, in my opinion. I think when we're looking back at him in 20, 30 years at the end of his career, I mean, sky is the limit for this guy. If this is what we're doing, second in the league with everything that's happened this season, all the injuries, all the red cards, all of that, and the holes in the squad are obvious, I think the sky is the absolute limit. What we've done to Real Madrid last night is just astonishing. And I mean, I cannot be grateful enough for him being the manager of my football club. I cannot speak highly enough about him. He's given me what was the pod we did last week, 2 weeks ago, when you said like you just want a team to believe in. Like he's given me that and more in abundance. I feel so proud to have him managing my football club. And yeah, last night just felt like a bit of a dream, to be honest.
Well
Unbelievable.
done. Congratulations, genuinely. I don't want to take anything away from it at all. One thing I would
Like you're going
say,
to go on.
no, because I don't think it's in context actually relevant to you. I just think it's happened to happen against you. But I do think it's fair to say this Real Madrid result feels like it's been coming for years
As
against
in
someone
against
in the
them.
Champions League.
Yeah, agree. And that's why, like, even I mean, we did our preview yesterday, right? And I think we both predicted a win. But even in the pub with my mates, I was like, when you look at them and you remove the kind of aura, unquantifiable thing, like there are weaknesses in them. And I think that's why I'm proud though, because I've seen other strong teams go and play them but get done over. And I think that's what I'm like, we didn't. Like, and I think that's on the manager as well as the players to go and implement the system he's set up and stuff. And of course, there's another leg, but I think that's part of it as well. Like that, this did feel like a result coming for them, but it was us that went and did it.
Yeah, and you should be proud of that. I genuinely, I'm not trying to grab anything away from you. I just think it's fair to analyze that and say how many times we sat here in it. They were a bit all over the place, but they pull it through because of individual brilliance or something like that. But even think about the Champions League final against Dortmund, right? I was so lucky to go in at half time, like 0-0. It's been so, other than obviously Man City gave them a slap in a couple of years ago in the semi final. I mean, that's actually one of the best performances I've ever seen from an English side in Europe. So it's not take anything away from you, but it feels like that Madrid result has been coming for quite a while in a lot of games we've been watching over the last few years. And I don't see him turning it round.
I mean, I flipping hope not, but yeah, like you said, I back us the way we set up and everything to be able to get the job done. But it's football, man. It's yeah, no,
No,
never
listen,
say
I get
never.
it. You would take a 2-0 defeat now. Like,
Yeah, yeah, of
of course you
course.
would just go through. I get it. I have to ask you, because the FPL crowd's going, who's playing this week? So, can you
Okay.
tell me which Arsenal 11 will start against Brentford? Go.
Oh Jesus.
Will Raya play in goal?
Yeah,
Okay, that's a
yeah.
good start. Will Saliba play?
I reckon it will probably be similar to the Everton team, to be honest. Will Saliba play? Yeah, just because I'm not. Yeah, I think White will come in, but I think he'll come in at right back.
So, no Timber.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It would make sense to me, truthfully, because I know there's a lot of people have obviously gone Gabriel Saliba, and there's a group of people who want to bench boost this week. I know it's almost like you can't afford to lose Saliba, but it feels way more important to me at the moment that Saliba and Kivior play together.
Is that to build up like the partnership and yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's centre back.
yeah, I can see
So
that.
I think Saliba plays. Therefore, as a consequence, you're better off having Raya behind it as well.
Oh yeah,
I think Ben White, you're absolutely right. And it might be that it's maybe even like Zinchenko or Tierney at left back.
yeah, would not be surprised with that at all, to be honest.
Don't think Declan Rice will play. Did
I
he?
don't.
What did he? I seem to say suggest he did maybe pick up a knock last night. I don't think it would keep him out the second leg.
He said it was fine though. Afterwards, he said I can't remember what he said word for word, but he kind of hinted that him and Saka like it wasn't serious.
Can see Jorginho playing now, I think.
Yeah, this what was the midfield against Everton? It was Jorginho.
Marino played a deeper role, didn't he?
Yeah, and then who was the third one in
The
midfield? Oh, it
short
was
bloody
Rice.
teammate.
I
And
know.
Rice, yeah. So that probably leads into Declan Rice not playing. So maybe Odegaard plays this one this weekend. Remember,
Yeah,
it's 4 day gaps for Arsenal. I think like we've mentioned obviously about Villa and the gap quite a lot. But in Villa's case, it's 3 days either side. It's 4 days either side for Arsenal. So I think as Odegaard got a break last week, he probably plays. So Odegaard, Jorginho, I don't think Partey will play.
no.
And then it's one more. Are you
I
suggesting you
I,
don't?
th- I think it will be Rice. You know, I think it will probably be Jorginho, Rice, Odegaard, and do you know what? The big one I think people are probably wondering. I wouldn't be surprised if Saka does start, but only
I
plays
wouldn't
like
either.
60. Because I, again, in my personal opinion, I didn't think he looked entirely match fit personally last night. And I think with the spacing, I think it will be another opportunity to get an hour into him, build up that match fitness, build up that sharpness. And I don't think an hour does any harm at all. And then you never know. Like worst case scenario, we may need him for 120 next week, right? So I think
I
there'll be a
guess
case to
I
try
guess
build
the
him up.
thinking is that the front three again could be Waneri, Sterling, Trossard, right?
Could be, yeah, but I think Saka will start but get taken off.
I think probably right.
Yeah, it's a
Put it this
nightmare
way
for
as well.
fantasy, though. Bloody
If
hell.
you are bench boosting this way, unless he is actually injured, don't think there's any reason to think that Bukayo Saka won't play at all.
No, exactly.
And he was probably never going to be part of your bench anyway. And I think the only other two that there'll be a little bit of Marino ownership, admittedly. I don't think the people might have a bit of Martinelli or Trossard if they've kind of overthought the rotation, maybe. I think it'd be fair to obviously think Trossard would play.
Yeah.
Probable rest for Martinelli in some form. I think the guys at the back will play. Certainly Saliba and Raya. Timber is a problem. If you've got Saliba and Raya, I think they play.
Yeah, I think that as well.
Quite what Arsenal's mentality will be like for that game is also questionable, by the way. I
Gonna
don't
be
mean
weird.
that seriously. Because Brentford's an ugly fixture to kind of have for that. If you're a little bit below it, I wouldn't actually be surprised if you didn't win on Saturday. I think you probably will. But I can see it being like a 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that, rather than it being like last night. It almost might be a more difficult game on Saturday under the circumstances. No, well done, mate. And enjoy your trip to Madrid next
Yeah,
week.
thank you. Gonna try catch Atletico are playing on the
It's
Monday. Gonna see if I can try get to that.
oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah,
Because
against
you're
Valley.
going on the Monday. So
I am,
yes,
yeah.
guys, no Clayton and James next week, I'm afraid. Or actually no, I'm pleased. Right, let's move on. I understand you didn't watch the Monday night football, which I don't blame you for.
No.
I was gonna say I suffered for it. I watched it.
I think it was 3-0, wasn't it? Was it that bad?
Well, it just wasn't a contest, was it? And,
Yeah.
and Newcastle couldn't be bothered. The interest in it was like, well, could Newcastle end up smashing these? and they couldn't be bothered, and I don't blame them for that whatsoever because they've
Seen
got
a
a Sunday, Wednesday schedule coming up.
seen a few Jacob Murphy owners on the timeline the last few
Are you
days.
not one of them, Clates?
I'm not. No, I who did I go with? I had Isaac and just Trippier and Pope in the back in defence.
So you're on your free Newcastle.
Yeah,
So you're gonna stick with that, obviously. I think takeaways would be at the moment for Newcastle in terms of fantasy. Difficult to think that that won't just be the same 11 on Sunday against Manchester United. It sounds like from Eddie Howe's comments last night that Anthony Gordon probably won't be in a position to start that game on Sunday. And if he is available, then I don't think they're just taking Harvey Barnes out the team with then another game 3 days later. It might be Gordon starts against Palace, maybe. But I got the impression from how, and I think like we knew that on the Friday he was going to say, I don't know.
yeah.
So he wasn't lying. And I think actually on Monday, I know people are like, oh, that means Isak's out. He was like, no, Isak's fine. And I thought Isak was fine. I thought he was just, he knows how to manage his body now because the football match was won. If he looks a bit lethargic and stuff in the second half, he had the odd chance in the first half and that. Again, you'll hear this on Clash of Correspondents tomorrow because that's Newcastle Palace with Simon Bibby and Roy McLoughlin-Dowd. Kind of in no doubt, really. Like if you were going triple captain Isak this week, don't think twice about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
No, I used mine on Haaland way back whenever they played Ipswich. Was that game week 2 or something?
Oh, that worked out pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah.
In fairness, most of the Haaland crowd ended up in the Southampton game, didn't they? Was it game week 9 or something? So, yeah, if you've still got it, unless you were planning to use another chip, I would proceed and triple captain Isak. The first goal comes about because of excellent work, I think, primarily from Tino Livramento. I thought was man of match. It was
Nice.
absolutely outstanding at left back. I am not comfortable with wrong-footed players playing on the wrong side at fullback. He always gives me something. You know, we all watched like Kieran Trippier playing left back last summer.
It's a bit of an ick, isn't it?
And yeah, is that what the kids call it these days?
Yeah.
It's just not quite right. But Livramento at left back doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, he's quite cultured, I think, isn't he?
The amount of ball carrying he got through, it was like every time he got the ball, Newcastle seemed to end up 30 yards further up the pitch. It was really good, actually.
Very technical, yeah.
It didn't help that Leicester had stayed with the same team again. And when I did my team news stream for our patrons last week, I even took the piss out of it. I was like, they've been so good lately. Not obviously. I think they're going to pick the same team. You do think change it up a bit. I mean,
They look like scoring.
Daka chasing after Livramento is just not right. He's a 9, isn't he? I know he might not be a 9. That's not what they hoped it would be when they bought him. We're just chasing after him all game. Shite. And you got obviously with Barnes, you've got the dual threat. You can go outside or inside. So it was lovely for Livramento to just keep going on the overlap, and it offered Barnes the option both ways every single time. So that left side's really good for Newcastle because in Hall and Gordon's the first choice. I think that was really good for them.
Yeah, for the Leicester fans, this must be so painful going and watching.
Yeah.
Like, just no. Well, exactly. Again, bringing it back to what you said, like they just have no reason to believe in their team. Like, how many games is that without a goal in the league now?
No, who the last team they scored against was? Like, just score a goal, Leicester, please.
Did they look like threatening or scoring in this game?
No, not really. I mean, they actually played all right in the last half hour or so. But I think it's because Newcastle had pretty much completely stopped playing. And he did have the young boy come off the bench, Jeremy Monga.
Yeah, 15, I think I saw, right?
Yeah, second youngest player in Premier history after Ethan Nwaneri. And if he goes on to be as good as that young boy looks like, then he's obviously a super talent. So bloody young, couldn't even have the sponsor on his shirt.
I saw that.
Because obviously it was a gambling sponsor. So yeah, I mean, he looked tidy when and it was nice for Leicester fans to have that as in like, okay, with something to cheer on and get behind. So the game ended a bit better for them. Newcastle weren't playing. You didn't feel like Leicester were going to score. And the one effort from Daka in the first half, which hit both posts and then conveniently landed straight back at Pope, but Vardy was given offside anyway, and I think probably just about was offside. But yeah, it must be. I mean, I'm in a position where I've obviously feeling a bit shit about my own team at the moment, but yeah, Christ, to go through that. My goodness. I think after the game, Van Nistelrooy's interview hinted at a man that was on the brink of resigning, actually.
Oh, really? What was
So
the
like
was it
the
words or the semantics around it?
well, one of the questions was, I'm paraphrasing, was something like, do you feel like you're in a position to take this forward and improve the situation? I know he's not bullshitting anyone, Van Nistelrooy. He's not saying, oh, we're going to still try and get out of it and stuff like that. They know what their fate is. But he pretty much he was asked twice and he just kind of kept repeating the kind of line of, we need to kind of analyze tonight. And he wasn't like, yeah, it's me. I'm going to sort this out. Do you know what I mean? And I wondered if the speculation with Southampton, because obviously Juric has left them, the speculation was that obviously it was like a break if when relegation was announced, or it's a cheaper compensation. And I wonder if it's that with Leicester,
Yeah,
that
probably.
it could be that it's official, that he knows he's going to get his payoff, but it will be a cheaper payoff once relegation is confirmed. It might well be that. It was funny when the camera panned to him after the first goal. So Murphy scores after 2 minutes. A really tidy finish, by the way, because it's one of them easy. You just got to make the contact correctly. It's difficult to, easy to get wrong when the ball's bouncing just in front of you. So they go away celebrating in the corner, and the camera pans to Van Nistelrooy, and you can just lip read. He just goes, "Fuck's sake!" That 2 minutes in, like, and they from kickoff. They went direct, and did he push forward? They won a header. Vardy had a shot that was going wide anyway, but Pope couldn't take the chance and pushed it wide. That was 20 seconds gone. So it was like, right, it's just started on the front foot, and then 2 minutes later, they're still it's the first time Newcastle attacked, they're still losing. The second goal was wild. When Cher hit it, I thought it was in. And it's an outrageous effort. He should, by the way, play the pass to Murphy. I know he nearly scores like
Okay.
one of the greatest ever Premier League goals, but if you watch it back, there's a pass. The separation between Connor Cody and Luke Thomas, because there's a turnover, there's about 30 yards between them, and Murphy senses it and he runs through. And what's interesting about, I know there's a lot of criticism about the distance that ended up with Murphy and the Leicester players. So like when the ball comes back off the bar, you can't see a Leicester player in shot, and Murphy's got an open goal. I have a bit of sympathy with that actually,
Why?
because I think Murphy's already making the run through, so he's already making a sprint thing. I'm in if I receive this pass. So he's sprinting, and then he kind of goes into a jog, but it's almost like he's easing off, and he just keeps going. And I don't think when a player shoots on the halfway line, I don't think your brain is trained to think this might come back off the bar.
No.
It's
Not
not.
at all.
I realised that, yeah, play to the whistle and follow it in and all these sort of things. But you're thinking he's either scored or it's over. Really, that's what you're thinking. Your distance is so long, and I don't think they're all stationary because they're also thinking about keeping the high line and potentially playing offside. They're all stationary. Murphy's running through. They got mass criticised for that, and I've been very critical of Leicester defensive. I can understand what happened there.
Yeah, you are right. I've never really thought about that this week
It's
either.
the first time anyone's ever hit the crossbar in the Premier League from their own half.
Is it?
Yeah,
There's a trivia question for people, isn't it?
yeah. Someone did message me and say Ryan Giggs had a similar one at Charlton, which
Okay.
was, it wasn't from the ground. It was actually bounced up on the volley, and he smashed it from goal from like 50 yards and hit the bar. And Solskjaer scored from the rebound. Same things like Murphy, but it was in the opposition's half. It wasn't in his own half. And Murphy's finish is so brilliant. I love it. So he gets there, and he obviously knows because he's run and none of them run back. There's no one near him. He could do whatever he wants. He takes the worst second touch you've ever seen in your life. And obviously, so many of us obviously own him in fantasy at the moment. You think you can't cock that up. And to be fair, he recovers and scores the only way he can with the outside of his foot, put it in at the near post. If he'd have gone with his left foot, he probably would have missed. And his interview after the game was really nice. He comes across as such a likable human being.
Yeah.
Man is smiling from ear to ear. And you can feel in him that he's almost a little bit like the kid who got lucky. We've spoken so much about Newcastle wanting a new right winger, and he's been a part of this team that now takes on legendary status because it's won the Carabao Cup. It's doing well. He's actually providing numbers which are genuine and real. I think it's third or fourth for attacking returns in this calendar year in the Premier League.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
14 attacking returns or something, mate. It's like outrageous. And I think he knows his limitations, and he knows how lucky he is to be wearing that shirt, and he's giving it his all the
Yeah.
time. and is providing something that's very stable. He's really solid in terms of his work defensively to help out at fullback, which is even more important with Kieran Trippier having to play there at the moment. Because Trippier for a long time has actually been, if you isolate him 1v1, think about Tottenham, Newcastle at White Hart Lane a couple of years ago, where if you've got someone like Son who can take a man on, used to, and is a good dribbler, Trippier's in trouble, actually. So he does all the defensive work as well, good energy. He looks so happy just to be out there. I think he knows his place.
Yeah, there
He's
was
not
that.
going to be right winger for Newcastle in 2 years. He's just enjoying it. Good luck to him.
Yeah, there was that clip when Newcastle's first Champions League game at home at St James's Park, and when the camera pans across the players with the anthem in the background, and everyone's like game face, and you just see
He's not.
Murphy
I think it's
smiling,
lovely.
beaming. It was great.
Do
Yeah,
you know what it does as well? It shows
yeah,
human
exactly.
characteristics of someone. When so often we speak about it, players give the kind of the robotic, media trained answer. He's there, and I know they're a bit more relaxed when it's Monday Night Football interviews anyway. But yeah, he came across so well, I thought.
Race
Um,
for fourth and fifth is looking nice. 7, 8 games left, and
yes,
Chelsea on 53, Newcastle on 53, game in hand, albeit, and City Villa behind 52, 51. Can we throw Fulham Brighton in the mix?
not for the top five, I don't
No?
think, but certainly in the race for Europe, and as our Bournemouth still very much in that, I wouldn't even completely rule out Palace, Brentford. There is a circumstance where it drops down to like eighth, ninth, so I don't think you can rule them out. But I think the top seven now will be the top seven,
Okay. In that order?
unless Villa like tailed off and then they stay in the Champions League and all the eggs go in that, it might change. No, I think the top seven will be the top seven. I do think Forest will do it, and I think it'll probably be City, Newcastle as well, purely because I think just ultimately, I think Chelsea's running like the final four fixtures is tougher than the others. And there's little things like Chelsea have got to go to Newcastle in game week 36. And it's currently scheduled for the Saturday lunchtime. Now, it's highly likely going to move because Chelsea will have the Conference League game on the Thursday. It will move to 12 o'clock on the Sunday. And actually, I mean, that's shit, isn't it? Play 12 o'clock on the Sunday after a European semi final on the Thursday
Yeah,
night.
that's going to be
I don't
tough.
know who's agreed to that because all these games have been happening, have been going to 7 o'clock at night, haven't they?
Yeah, any idea why?
I don't know if it's been thought about Chelsea fans getting home but they ain't
Oh,
getting there for kickoff if they leave on the Sunday morning for a 12 o'clock kickoff. They're going to have to stay up the night before unless you're doing coaching. What I mean is train, you're not doing, of course, you can drive it, etc. Sorry, as a pedestrian, as my wife would call me, I'm always thinking about trains. But actually, it would do Chelsea a favour if Tottenham go through in Europe. I know Chelsea fans won't
go
want
on.
to.
I think you're going
No,
to have to sell them a bit on that one.
I will actually, because listen, Tottenham will cock it up anyway. But if Tottenham go through in Europe as well, Chelsea's legs switch in the semi-final, so they have the second leg at home.
Oh, yeah, which is always preferable anyway.
But they might have to play
They
in
probably won't need it in that competition, though.
a semi-final though. I get it. Like they could put themselves in a position. It's Rapid Vienna or Der Garden from Sweden, which one of our patrons, Victor, is never going to forgive me the pronunciation of that. And they might win the first leg 4-0 and can genuinely rotate unbelievably in the European semi-final second leg. But if you do have to be competitive about it, being away on that Thursday night and then having Sunday lunchtime at Newcastle is not helpful.
Okay, so Chelsea fans, you want Tottenham to go through them?
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they'd rather go, no, we just have the second leg away. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I think Chelsea might just miss out. I don't think Villa will finish above City, Newcastle, or Forest, personally. So, as discussed with Gary Mantle when we did Chelsea Tottenham on COTC last week or the week before, we said Chelsea's home games were going to be really, really important. Like they cannot be dropping points like Ipswich at home, Everton at home, Manchester United at home. They've got to win them all basically,
Yeah.
and they may well do so. They've also got Liverpool to come. Now it could be a Liverpool side that's got the title won, and I don't think Liverpool, as we can see at the moment, aren't at 100% capacity. They don't need to be at this moment in time. So I think it'd probably be Forest, City, Newcastle. That's where the drama's at for the rest of this Premier League season, anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Let's talk. Kevin De Bruyne obviously plays for Manchester City for the last time over these next 10 games or whatever they've got left, maybe subject to what they do in the FA Cup. I'm pleased, is the first thing I want to say,
I knew
because
you'd say that because you've said a
because
few times. Yeah.
I felt it uncomfortable to watch him a little bit this season. Not in like, oh, his legs are his legs aren't the same, let's say. But I don't think it's comfortable ever watching a player that you admire so much no longer at their peak. My favourite player, most of you know, is Ledley King, right? Last time I saw Ledley King play football, he got absolutely murdered by Grant Holt playing for Norwich on Easter Monday in 2012, which was roundabout. It might have even been on this day, possibly. And you knew watching that game, Ledley had to stop. It was finished. He's never got to that stage with Kevin De Bruyne. But Kevin De Bruyne is he's in that type of player like a Gerrard. It's all action. You need him all action. He, for me, I think, is the best midfielder ever to play in the Premier League.
Oh wow! Because I was going to ask you, but this is the thing this week. It's all been the where does he rank and this, but he's top for you, yeah.
For me, yes.
What's the reasoning in your head behind it?
I think the all-round brilliance, and to go with it, if you're comparing, I can hear the Liverpool fans. I can feel them. Like I can feel the back of my neck already. But De Bruyne's got the medals to go with. Yeah, Gerrard won the Champions League as well. I know he did. I'm not saying he didn't have a great career, but I think Kevin De Bruyne had the all-action, all-round game and had the medals to go with it. Twice Player of the Year, countless other medals. Part of a key Belgium team that many of us have watched over the last few years. I know they'll go down as a golden generation, didn't win anything, but Belgium's not a big country, right? And him and Hazard were the two best players part of that team. I think Kevin De Bruyne has been the best Manchester City player over this era since they came into the money. I think he came in on a reputation. It's kind of been memed over the last week or so, isn't it? A number of people like, wow, Man City spending that money on a player who failed at Chelsea, or maybe it was just a player who didn't have a chance at Chelsea. And I think Kevin De Bruyne can do everything. He can tackle, he can pass, he can run. I know these are basics, but I'm listening. Technique extraordinary. Called Big Game Kev for a reason. And I don't care what anyone says, his record in big games for me was good.
Oh,
I
it
think
was,
it's
yeah.
influenced by the fact he unfortunately went off injured in two Champions League finals. And what's the chances? For
Was that right?
me,
I forgot about
yeah,
that.
both Chelsea
Oh
and Inter
shit!
Milan.
Oh wow!
I mean, how unlucky is that?
Yeah, very. I remember the Inter one. I forgot about the Chelsea one.
I remember being at the Champions League quarter final at the Etihad, where City went through. And when the first thing I think about De Bruyne is the assist for, of all the things I think of, is the assist for Aguero, City's fourth goal in that game, where he drifts. At the time, he's playing in the central midfield position because City are chasing the game. And he drifts into that right half space on the halfway line and he gets it and he beats a couple and he's running at the opposition. You're like, the power of this guy, oh my God. And with him, you're like, shit, he could put it top bin from here. And just at the right moment, he plays the pass and Aguero scores. That's what I think about. The catalogue of his goals and assists, you could lose a lot of time on YouTube
Yeah.
just watching some of his brilliant goals and assists. Every time he got the ball in that right half space channel, didn't matter if it was he'd have the run on the outside, you knew you were dead, or if he received the ball back from the fullback and he had the opportunity to cross, you knew you could be dead. His delivery of a cross as a player that we considered largely as a central player. And I know he was kind of bought, people thought he would be a winger. And that's it. He's evolved as a player as well. That delivery, you think of like him, Beckham, Gerrard, in terms of the ball into the box. For me, an extraordinary player who genuinely frightened the life out of me whenever he was on it. Could play 60-yard balls, slide route, everything you wanted. Kevin De Bruyne could do, and has got all the trophies to back it up. I think an extraordinary player.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tell me about him terrorizing my team, bloody hell. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you've had loads of it as well.
yeah, he was a privilege to watch, though. Like joking aside on that, and what you said there as well about, I think we see these kind of crosses from the half spaces quite a lot in modern football, right? But what you said there, I think the key difference with him was his ability to do it at speed, moving with like people trying to snap at his heels and stuff, and just the consistent execution, just bang on a sixpence for Aguero, Sane, Sterling at the back post in those kind of prime City years. It was absolute privilege
And
to
he
watch.
suffered bad injuries as well.
He has, yeah,
He's had
but
seasons where he's missed. I mean, that season actually
has
went
he?
against us in 18-19. He missed significant chunks of that season. I'm
Is he
sure he did.
retiring or is he leaving City?
No, no, no. I don't think he's retiring.
All
I
right.
think it's. I don't know where he's going to go actually. I did say to my dad, "Do you reckon?"
Would you take him?
Would I take him? Christ.
Just listen to you wax lyrical about him, and I'm asking, would you go? Would you
Listen,
take him?
it's interesting. I've said that I've not enjoyed watching him probably the last 18 months or so. I think even, was it the end of last year when they beat you 4-1? That was the year
Year
before, wasn't
before.
it? Yeah. The last 18 months or so, I've not enjoyed watching him in the same way because I know what he's capable of. And you can see the mind still works in the same way. The body, unfortunately, doesn't. And we shouldn't be surprised because he's had those bad injuries as well. And I think I don't enjoy watching him anymore. If he played for my team, he'd be the best player in the team, mate, even now.
Be interesting to see where he goes. Actually,
I think he'd probably end up in the MLS or something, wouldn't he? I think probably.
could you see him going back to Wolfsburg or something?
He's going to want a certain salary, isn't he? And he can still
Yeah,
command
fair.
that. I think. I don't think Wolfsburg. I don't know if that would be a motive to him in any way. I mean, he's Belgian. He's not German, so I'd be very
No, just more
surprised.
that was the team he came from. I think when he came to City.
I don't know if he would stay in Europe. I don't think. And do you know what? I'd almost rather that he just went out of sight, out of mind into, with all due respect, the MLS or something, and I could just remember the absolute brilliance of a player. Yeah, very very few central midfield players I think actually scare you all round. Whether he was on it, whether he was arriving at the right time. People like Lampard, you'd be like, oh, don't give that prick like space. He'll score all the time. Like Lampard's goal scoring is obviously extraordinary. Kevin De Bruyne all round game for me, the top. And I've been saying for a long time that I felt people would only appreciate just how good De Bruyne was when he
He's
stopped.
gone. Yeah.
Because I think for us of whatever age we are drawn most when we think, oh, he's the best players we've seen and stuff. We are drawn to think first and foremost about those we saw that were greatest first. It's not to downplay anybody that was great in the 90s, but I still, for me, if you say, oh, best midfielders in the Premier League, I'm drawn to think Keane, Vieira, those guys in the 90s, and then a little bit later on, Scholes, Gerrards, Lampards. You're drawn more to think of these players first because they're who you saw do it first and best, basically. It's difficult to then equate. I think the way the game's changed at speed, and I think players like De Bruyne are a big part of that, actually. This player who's not just technically brilliant, but he's got the power to run
Yeah.
at you and kill you. What a player. I don't think his words are doing justice for how good I think he is.
No, well, I think you have. Yeah. All the best to him.
I'm sure he'll be delighted to see the back of semi-automated offside technology, which I just want to touch on because it's being introduced this weekend, which in itself is piss yourself laughing,
Yeah, what
which
is
kind of
that?
sums them up. That it was meant to be the start of the season, then it was pushed back to November, and now we're getting it in time for game week 32. I almost think just do it in the background between now and then and just start next season because the trials, excuse me, certainly in terms of the FA Cup fifth round games, didn't exactly inspire. This is going to be so much better. And I've kind of gave you my spoiler yesterday. I don't think it will be.
Go on, I haven't listened yesterday. Yep.
All right. The stat I gave yesterday is they reckon semi-automated offside technology would increase the speed of VAR decisions by on average 31 seconds.
Okay, quite a lot.
What difference does that make when I've waited 5.5 minutes?
Yeah, that is
Might as well
true,
wait 6 minutes
actually.
now, and I.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's that. That's where the speed is. They're mugging you off with the stat, right? Because most VAR decisions are actually quite quick, and sometimes we don't even know about it, right? They're mugging you off in that basically the 4 minute decisions are going to be 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, and in the grand scheme of that, that doesn't make a difference at all, to be honest. So where are you at with this then? Are you open to it?
It
Are you
doesn't really matter where I'm at. I mean, I literally agree with basically nothing that comes out of Angie's mouth at the moment, other than when he talks about VAR.
Yeah, it does feel like the game is going to head like in 10, 15 years, like will we be talking about, I don't know, AI and football or some shit? Like it does feel like the rapid involvement of technology in football
Well,
is
if we can get to a position where decision making, i.e., on offsides, I think specifically, because this is where we see it used the most, right? Listen, when VAR is used to send, to do things properly, like send off James Tarkowski at Liverpool, oh, no, it doesn't do that either.
yeah.
But when it is used properly for things like that, which I get that would be a difficult red card decision for an on-field referee, if they did do that properly and went, yep, that's a red card, then I'm more than happy for VAR's use. I don't have a problem with that. When the game's dead anyway, fine. What I don't like is the killjoy stuff, right? And we're not going to get away from this. We'll never celebrate goals in the same way. The beauty almost of like Declan Rice's goal last night, or the goals rather, is You knew on all three of them Arsenal goals, there was nothing that could be wrong with any of them.
Yeah, to be
That
honest,
helps when you celebrate them.
yeah, I am slightly different to you in that though, where like I'm a fucking idiot. I just celebrate regardless if I look like a tit.
Fine. I did that at Stamford Bridge, so it still happens to me, right? And that goal was correctly ruled out. Like I don't even mind that one. I understand more. Like there's a foul, okay, fine, drag it off. The offside stuff with the lines and all that. I do not want VAR on offsides until something is instant. I need to see it in my mind, like I used to see a linesman's flag was my signal whether I can celebrate or not. And I don't really care until we get to that point.
Is
And I
this
know people point out, the officiating in the lower leagues is so much worse. Well, you ain't got it, right? So,
yeah. Is this going to be the same as what they've been doing in the Champions League then?
yeah, I mean, I've seen semi-automated work, and we had the goal. Is it a goal City scored? I want to say against Bruges, maybe in the last group game when it was like, oh, did Haaland handball it or not?
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And how long did it take? Or no, was he offside? Because I think it was like, was he in front of the ball or something? And it was like 4 odd minutes or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it
I
was
think people
Vardy
have a
touched it
perception that
down.
semi-automated offside technology is going to be instant. It's not. You're still not going to know whether you celebrate or not.
Do you have any strong opinions on the one thing I've seen is it's obviously coming into play, like you said, this weekend, and people saying, "Oh, bringing it in during the season, you're playing a season with two different sets of rules." Do you have any strong opinions on that? Because I can't lie, I first thought like that, but now I'm looking at it and the state of the season. Like Liverpool are going to win the league. Like that's not in jeopardy. Is this going to have a massive impact on the fight for Europe, relegation, and stuff like that? Like, do you think
What
it
this
will
being
actually?
brought in,
Yeah, I'll probably phrase that badly. Do you think implementing it during the season is fair, or do you have any strong opinions on it?
it should improve the accuracy. Like no one likes the line stuff, right? Let's be because we all are a bit suspicious about it. But the Premier League will tell you that 100% of the offside decisions this year are correct. So they would tell you when VAR has been implemented for offside decisions, i.e., they've drawn the line. What they mean by that is no one's made a mistake on the VAR this year on an offside. So what I mean by that is you had the Ivan Toney goal at Arsenal a couple of years ago, where
Yep.
there was a Brentford player offside. There was, oh, forgive me, I think it was a Brighton goal at Crystal Palace, which I can't remember which way round, but they got the decision completely wrong and it should have been a goal. So they've not made any errors when drawing the lines this year. So actually, it's not going to improve the accuracy by decision making whatsoever because it's 100% accurate anyway. I'll tell you what I want, and this is what I want with VAR. And to go back to even like the Pape Sarr disallowed goal against Chelsea, what I don't understand about that is they showed a replay in the ground, and I after the decision had been made, and I went, yeah, it's a foul.
Yeah, you
So
said
why did
that.
it
Yeah.
take so long? I really think we've got to put something in place where there's some sort of timer.
Yeah. I think that could force people into stupid mistakes, but I get the thinking behind it. Yeah, I'm very nervous about
We've
where
no,
the game is heading, to be honest.
this carry on of 4 or 5 minute waiting and stuff. Semi-automated offside technology is not going to stop that. It's my point.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. This is not what it was brought in for. Is drawing lines off people's bum cheeks to make
No,
sure
this
they're a millimeter offside and so on. It's like if you, for me, it's like if the decision is clear and obvious, fine, go and change it. That with the Pap Sar one is clear and obvious. I just don't know why it takes so long. But the offside ones, I've experienced one go in Tottenham's favour, and I've seen one go against Tottenham in the stadium in the last two games we played. Right, the wait time that I've lost on those two decisions is over 10 minutes. This can't happen. Like the Chelsea one would have gone against me if it counted, and the one on Sunday would have gone for me. It gets to the point where you're almost sitting there in the ground, as I said yesterday, and thinking, just give the decision against me and can we play football now?
Yeah, and it comes back to I can't remember if it was a Clayton and James show or if we did a people's poll on like refereeing or something, but I spoke about it just feels like when again I'm repeating myself from what I said back then, but within the corporate environment, you implement a new system or something, you have people whose whole job it is to vet the process, look at every step of the process and how it's implemented. And then it just feels like they haven't really done that. It's like we've got this idea, we'll chuck it in, see how it goes. And like, I'm sure they have done a little bit of due diligence, but it doesn't feel like they've vetted these things properly from a process implementation perspective.
I'll have a bet with you between now and the end of the season. you will get a VAR check that is the longest yet in Premier League history.
Yeah, because
Because the way this is done as well, it supposedly measures 1,000 different points on a player.
it's
But
10,000.
is it 10,000? Is it
10,000, yeah.
10,000? I didn't know I had that many points. She won't be pleased. So, but it can still fail like it failed in that Bournemouth Wolves Cup game. And you eventually go back to drawing your lines and stuff anyway.
It's hilarious. Like, you're going to see the first meme, 10,000 data points, and your mates on Microsoft Paint drawing the lines. Oh,
Okay, let's not dwell on that any further. Let's talk about Chelsea's current Europa Conference League opponents this week. Legia Warszawa, or Legia Warsaw, as many of you probably more commonly know. Go.
yeah, that was very cultured of you. Yeah, they are.
That's my Polish friend taught me Legia Warszawa, you
You got
see.
a lot of mates from
No,
around the
this was the
continent. I
same
remember.
girl.
Oh, it's the same girl. Oh shit! What was her name again?
I'm not telling you that.
Yeah, they are the team that are standing or trying to stand in Chelsea's way of European success in the Conference League. So, I mean, they are probably the team that everyone is aware of in Poland, I'd say, like from times in the Champions League. And I don't know, I just feel like they're the team that, yeah, a lot of people are aware of. Like a lot of teams from these regions in Europe, a lot of their history does kind of stem back to during the World War. So their actual origins are officially March 1916, which was during World War One. And do you know? I mean, I don't know if your friend would have told you about the origins of how they were started or anything.
No, mate.
No, I
She
wasn't
just
sure.
told me the pronunciation.
All right, fair enough. But no, it was literally soldiers in the Polish legions that actually created the football club, which is the tale of the story, which I think is quite cool. In obviously a very tricky period in the world. But yeah, it was March 1916 when that happened. And originally, their colours were actually black and white. And then, as I'll talk about in a second, they obviously changed that. But obviously, during that period, there was a lot going on with the World War and everything. And there was a couple of times where the club disbanded, they then reactivated, vice versa, vice versa. The first reactivation of the club was actually on March the 14th, 1920. And this is where they then merged with another club. And this is where they merged with a team in Warsaw. And that's where the kind of Legia of Warsaw kind of came in. And that's where they adopted the white and green colours. It was following a few years later in 1927. They actually joined the newly formed Polish Football League. They finished fifth in their debut season. They did all right for a few years. They were challenging for the title in 1930, 1931. And then obviously World War II comes along and disrupts things as well. And then it was April in 1945 after World War II where they then were reborn as a football club. And 1955 is when they won their first ever Polish championship. They won the Polish Cup as well. And in the same year, they actually made their debut in Europe. They faced Slovan Bratislava in the European Cup in that year. And they actually had some success in the 60s and the 70s as we're going through the decades. They won back-to-back championships in 1969 and 70. They reached the semi-finals of the European Cup in the 69-70 season. They beat Galatasaray, Saint Etienne on the way to losing against Feyenoord. They actually have played Tottenham historically as well. They beat Tottenham 2-0.
Have they?
Yeah.
When was this?
I don't know the actual date, but it was on their 50th anniversary celebration.
Was it a friendly?
No, it said it was in Europe.
Really? I don't think we played them in Europe.
Oh, that's what it said.
All right, I'm going looking. Carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. So going through to like the 80s and the 90s, it was in 1989 that they started to transform into. No, sorry, I'm reading the wrong bit of my notes. It was 1993 that they won the league, and they won it in style on the final day. They won 6-0, but then they were actually stripped of that championship by the Polish FA because they were accused of bribery. And you kind of fast forward into the 2000s and the 2010s, and it was in the 21st century where they started to get new investors. They had some quite popular technology companies coming in, taking over, and in 2006 they actually won their 8th championship. But then kind of fast forward to the period I said, I think there's a lot of times where people were familiar about them in Europe. And in 2016, they were in the Champions League group stage. They famously were drawn against Real Madrid. They played Dortmund. I think Sporting Lisbon, when I was reading, was another team they had in their group. They did draw 3-3 against Real Madrid, which was quite a famous result as well. They had a massive loss to Dortmund, but I forgot what the scoreline was. But that went down as like one of the most mental Champions League games in terms of the scoreline. I feel like it was double figures in terms of the actual scoreline. And in the present day, like they won the league in 2021. They then finished, I think, 10th the year after that. They've had a couple of seasons where they were second, third. And yeah, right now I think they're fifth from memory in the table.
They
So they're
are,
not,
yeah. Chelsea
yeah,
must be shitting themselves.
yeah. So they're not doing amazing. And in the actual Conference League, they did. To be fair to them, they did finish in the automatic spots. So yeah, that's how they managed to get through. And they beat Mulder. They were actually 3-2 down from the first leg, but then on the second leg they won 2-0 at home to take them through to obviously play Chelsea, which is tomorrow, and they're playing at home.
So you are absolutely correct about this game with Tottenham, which was in 1996, and it was a friendly.
Oh, it was a
I
friendly.
knew that we hadn't played them in competitive competition, and you're gonna love this, people, because it was a friendly that was played in May.
Oh dear! Why were they travelling across
Do not play your FA Cup replay. Well,
Hamworth? Well,
yeah, we had replays then and stuff, absolutely. That's amazing because the game was played on Tuesday, the 3rd of May. And I'm just looking here.
that would be
Tottenham
within the
played
season.
Tottenham played Burnley 3 days earlier in the league, and they played West Brom 4 days later in the league.
Oh
The
wow!
season wasn't finished. It was like
No,
right at the end of the season they played a friendly. So I guess Tottenham would have been considered one of the prestige fixtures, yes, genuinely at that time because we'd
yeah,
won the double in '61 and European Cup Winners' Cup in 1963. So I'm guessing probably at the end of that season, Tottenham maybe didn't have anything to play for and got an invite and went.
yeah,
It's
possibly.
interesting, but we I knew we'd never played them competitively. We played Wisla Krakow, I think, in Europe in it was the beginning of it was the 2 points from 8 game season 08
Okay.
09, and that was the only game we won under one day Ramos that year was the first leg of that when bizarrely he decided to play Ledley King in these 2 Europa League playoff games rather than play him in the league, which mattered way more. No, we'd never played Legia Warsaw. And what I was interested in, look, there was a couple of things stood out to me when I looked at them a little bit. One, the last 2 Polish titles, the Extra Klasa, I think it's called, they've been won by first time ever winners. One of which was obviously Jagiellonia, we'd covered a couple of weeks ago. And I was also surprised by the amount of titles that they'd won in Poland, Legia Warsaw. I thought it would be way more
Yeah, me too.
because for me, I felt like they were the obvious dominant team, actually. And there's a period, I think, between that sort of like the early 70s to like the 2010s or so, maybe the late 90s, but they only won the title like once. And I thought that's weird because when I was a kid, they were in my psyche when I was young, that I knew them. And so I tried to trace back why. And I think it's because they played a couple of English teams in the 90s was why I knew them. So they played Manchester United in the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final in 1991. They actually sort of got to the semis. United obviously went on to beat Barcelona in the final. Actually drew at Old Trafford in the second leg, having lost the first leg at home. I think it was 3-2 on aggregate. And they also played Blackburn when Blackburn got in the Champions League. So the 2 games in my early childhood in the 90s was like, Legia also played Man United, played Blackburn. They must be the team in Poland. And they are the most successful team in Poland. But I was quite surprised to trace back and see that they'd not been that dominant or not as dominant as I thought that they would have been, actually. And stadium wise, they moved into a new stadium. You're going to tell me how long ago, Clates?
I've got
No, you're
no
not.
idea.
Okay, fine. But the stadium's like quite nice now and stuff. So 30 odd thousand. But that's like a new, fairly new modern build as well. They were playing in the stadium before. It only held like 13,000.
Yeah,
And I just thought they were by far the biggest team in Poland. They are, by the way. But I had them in my mind as much bigger. You know what else they're amazingly famous for? And you might see a little bit of this week. Tune in if you don't want to watch the game on against Chelsea on Thursday, and it is an early kickoff. Don't watch it by all means because you don't watch Conference League football unless your team's in it, really, do you? But you might want to see whatever they come up with a tifo.
yeah, their tifos are pretty good. I think that's why they were maybe in my psyche because over Twitter, over the years, you used to always see these random teams across Europe that do amazing ones, and I think they were one of the teams that was just ingrained in my head.
They've got the best tifo ever for any team. So they had a game where they got thrown out of the stand behind the goal, and they put a banner up, and the banner read, "This time you won, UEFA." Right? That's the
I
they
rate
just
it.
so the stand is like empty. You put this banner up there. This time you won, UEFA. And then the teams come out, and all the ultras have obviously moved to the side opposite where the camera comes out, and I've got this massive unveiling, and it says, "Surprise, motherfuckers!"
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Absolutely, and they obviously know they're going to get done again. It's absolutely amazing. PC not correct, but who cares? It's not my club. I think that's amazing. They did have some trouble when they played Villa in the Conference League a couple of years ago. You might remember there's a lot of trouble outside Villa Park, and all their fans got refused entry.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's videos you'll find online of some, I know, using air quotes, Warsaw fans trying to throw stuff at Villa fans in the whole end as they're walking around the ground as the game's gone on because they've been denied entry.
If any
The
Chelsea
police made a
fans go
judgment
tomorrow.
call not to let any of their fans in the ground because the amount of trouble outside.
Oh wow. So yeah, any Chelsea fans going tomorrow, be careful.
And if you're going to Poland, be careful as well. Right, we shall follow with On This Day, which
Before
I
we
was.
do, can I just say one thing from last night that's popped into my head based on a
No,
conversation?
no,
No, no,
enough.
it's not pro Arsenal. It's not pro Arsenal. It's you know what we're talking about. European fans versus Madrid fans were fucking awful last night. Like, and I
That's
saw,
interesting.
yeah, and I got a few messages after we did that pod where people were like, I think you're giving the continent a bit too much credit, and like actually
Yeah, I'd seen a bit of
them
that as
looking,
well.
yeah, them looking at us was like, oh, we're full of praise for you. So yeah, I just wanted to say I thought Madrid support last night was quite
I've
disappointing.
no doubt that you'd have certain places in Spain or Germany where yeah, a little bit like some of the smaller clubs in our country create some of the better atmospheres and some of the big clubs. I'm sure some of that works the same way. I can only tell you that of all the football stadiums I've ever been into in my life, the only place I ever felt like I couldn't sing and it was a complete waste of my time was the Bernabeu.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that next week.
I cannot believe how loud that place was when my team played there in 2011. That was a Champions League quarter final as well. That was louder than Dortmund, anywhere else, San Siro, anywhere else I've been. Unbelievably, was Real Madrid. It was a waste of time even trying to sing.
I cannot wait. And
So
one more bit of
that's my
housekeeping.
experience.
For everyone listening, go and Google Legia Warsaw Tifos because they are unbelievable. Not even
Yes.
just the one James said. There's a few others that are unreal. Right,
So
on this day.
on this day, I was looking at games from obviously April 9th in history, and I got to 1995, and it's like Everton 4, Tottenham 1, FA Cup semi final. I was like, this is so the right game to cover. But I
Was
was like,
this while you
I
were
just, I
watching
just
Arsenal?
don't, yeah. So straight after watching you twat Real Madrid, which for clarity, as soon as Marino scored, I didn't wait to check if the goal had been given. I was like, that's it, that's off, that's enough now. I was like, yeah, I'm just not in the mood for this. So I'm going to apologise now to our Evertonians and say sorry that I'm not covering it. Our Everton correspondent Sean Norton at Spirit Blues has already quote tweeted some highlights from the game. So if you want to watch it, head there. What will please Everton is I'm going to choose a game that Liverpool lost instead. So there's still a little bit of Everton. Liverpool in Champions League quarterfinal second leg in 2002 went to Germany to play Bayer Leverkusen, taking a 1-0 lead into the game from the first leg at Anfield. This was at the time when it was the two group stages, and then you went straight to the quarterfinals. And Leverkusen, of course, would go on to the final and lose to Real Madrid, and Zidane's great goal in the final at Hampden Park would obviously beat Liverpool and, even more astonishingly, Manchester United on away goals in the semi-final to reach the final. They weren't given much hope. Remember, this is the Leverkusen. They'd
Oh
never
yeah.
won a major trophy in their history. Here they are, Champions League quarterfinals. And Liverpool had an indifferent season, I think it's fair to say. But I think had high hopes because obviously the previous year they'd won the cup treble of the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the UEFA Cup. They beat Alaves in Dortmund, and a real kind of belief that they were a team that was very set up to do very well in cup competitions. So they take this 1-0 lead to Leverkusen, and you expect them, I think, to get the job done. Michael Ballack, yes, Michael Ballack, would give Bayer Leverkusen the lead. He put Steven Gerrard on his arse, literally. He didn't, well, he kind of partly slips. I'm sorry to say it. Put Steven Gerrard on his arse, hits his left footed strike from about 25 yards. He's one of them that looks top bin, but unlike Declan Rice's, it's not really. Jersey dude that gets a good hand on it, but doesn't keep it out. He's hit very well hard. He's one of them when you see it back, it looks like the ball picks up speed, in fairness. I have a little bit of sympathy, but he's not top bin, but he looks like a worldie from the side angle. So Leverkusen 1-0 up. But Liverpool would get, importantly, of course, at this time, an away goal later in the first half. Abel Xavier, yeah, him. Do you
Oh,
remember the dyed
throwback.
hair and the
Yeah.
dyed beard? Headed in a corner from Danny Murphy to give an away goals. Away goals was the most you celebrated a goal because it's so often in this circumstance, it's like it was
Well, yeah, it
worth
was
two
worth two.
goals
Yeah.
when you scored. Especially if you'd already won the first leg 1-0, you knew it. I had that experience obviously in the Etihad when Tottenham equalised and Man City. It was like, shit, now we've gone here knowing that City scored once, it was extra time. Now they've got to score twice more to beat us. So Liverpool equalised on a night, half time 1-1. You feel like they'd be fairly comfortable. In the second half, Ballack scores this incredible headed goal. It's one of them, he just meets it on the full. And actually, I think it's Xavier coming to challenge and basically heads him at the same time. Bullet header into the corner, reels away, like holding his face as he's scored as well. Kind of untypical headed goal. The sort of one you could imagine Nicholas Fulkrug might score now. It's a proper, powerful headed one into the corner. And Leverkusen would extend their lead and go ahead on aggregate not long afterwards. Stefan Henshaw blocked a shot on the line. Who was there to tap in the rebound a little bit uncomfortably as a substitute for Leverkusen? Went on to play many games in the Premier League. Any guesses, Clates?
Oh, I wouldn't even know where to start, mate.
The great Dimitar Berbatov,
Ah,
who looks like he's got some serious head of hair going on, but you can't see it because as he scores, you wouldn't know it's Berbatov. And I actually had to double check that it was Berbatov because you can't tell that it's Berbatov because he runs away like a full-on 100-mile-an-hour sprint. I never seen him run so fast, and then gets absolutely mobbed by his teammates on the ground. So you never actually see Berbatov's face at all in the highlights I found, which I couldn't find on YouTube. I had to find them on Daily Motion, Clays, to find the
okay.
highlights of this game actually. Liverpool would pull a goal back and obviously then retake the lead on aggregate on the night. Yari Littmanen scoring for Liverpool, who Liverpool fans didn't quite see the best of him. I think he did well for Liverpool, by the way, but he was often kind of third, fourth choice striker. He'd obviously had a great career in the 90s. Danny Murphy tries to slide Michael Owen through and it gets blocked, and then straight away it comes back to him, puts Littmanen in. Littmanen cuts in off the left, feints again, drills it bottom corner. And you're absolutely sure that Liverpool this time, surely, okay, concede a few, but they'll see it over the line. And obviously under Gerard Houllier at the time, they were considered fairly stingy. I think they might have even had the best defensive record maybe this season or the season before. Liverpool didn't end up in many games that were 3-2 at this time. Ended up in this one, ended up being 4-2 because Leverkusen would win it with Lucio scoring the winning
Oh, wow.
goal.
He's the Brazilian
Ends
one,
up
right?
on the angle, yeah, and he just hits it. He ends up getting slipped through. It's borderline offside. I think it would be okay on SWAT or VAR at the moment. But he's one of them. He's on his left and he just hits it with no like accuracy is important here. He just drills it. And it's one of them is right at Dudek. He tries to close his legs, can't close them in time. Goes in. He obviously is off celebrating. And Leverkusen would win the game 4-2 on the night. And it was really difficult to find highlights of this. This is the first game I've done on this. I couldn't find highlights
Oh, yeah, I wonder
properly
why.
on
Because
YouTube. I
I
don't know.
thought you said was it a quarter final? Did you say as well?
The only other thing I could find there was like a video I found that was the story of Leverkusen's path to the final, which obviously had some highlights of it, and the picture quality was better on that. I don't know. When did YouTube start? Late 2000s?
Oh,
But when
not a
I've done
clue.
games in the 90s, it's interesting. I always found them easy to find. You think a Champions League quarter final would be easy enough to find, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't think that's anything to do with YouTube. That was probably just broadcasting rights back then. Like, was the game even televised? You said quarterfinals, surely.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, I mean, chances are at that time, I think ITV
ITV,
had
yeah.
all of the Champions League games at that time. Sky wasn't till The Gerrard goal against Olympiacos, I think, around about then, a couple of years later, 04, 05. So yeah, strange one that.
All right.
I,
Are we
you,
going to
I
link
couldn't
Daily
just
Motion?
couldn't. Yeah, well, that's the link that's going in because that's the only one that I could find. So sorry, guys.
If you
Um,
get any weird pop-ups, you blame James.
Careful. A few others you might have known in that Leverkusen team. Zé Roberto, you
Yep.
might remember. Butt, who played in goal, not Nicky Butt, but he used to take penalties for him as well.
I don't think I know that one. No.
Oliver Neuville, you might remember. And Schneider might be a player you remember as well. Novotny, who played right back. But it was just such a surprise that they got to the final and very nearly took Real Madrid to extra time. The Liverpool team, for the record, was Dudek, Xavier, the excellent Sami Hyypiä, Stefan Henshaw. Jamie Carragher played left back. Murphy, Haman, Gerrard, John Onorisa played ahead of Carragher, left midfield. Heskey Owen up front. Subs bench was Kirkland, Smeetser, Berger, Barmby, McAllister, Bishkan, and Littmann. That is on this day from 2002 because I didn't want to do Tottenham losing to Everton from 1995. And I also thought it was a proper piss take to do Tottenham beating Manchester City from 2019. So there you go. And that was the
Lovely
first
stuff.
leg, by the way. Not the second leg isn't the one that's on this day. It was the first leg when Sonny scored.
Nicely done. Well covered. On the theme of Champions League quarterfinals, to the Villa fans, good luck tonight. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know who I want out of PSG Villa if we go through.
Come on, man.
Well, you think it's straightforward?
Well, which team you'd rather play?
Well,
Listen, let's be real about this for a second. I'm not by any means saying that Aston Villa couldn't beat you. They could, right? Emery's pedigree in this competition. They obviously drew at your place a little while ago.
mate,
They
they
won at
had
the
that
Emirates
double over for
last
us
year.
last year.
I know. In terms of English opponents, it's probably one of the most awkward ones you could have. But you would win that game more often than not.
I guess so.
As
Yeah,
it
good luck.
stands, in terms of the betting odds for the competition, you're off third favourites, and PSG are still above you, despite having not played their first leg yet.
Yeah,
So it's PSG, Barcelona, and then yourselves now in the betting.
yeah, I'm looking
So,
forward to watching that though. Like I said, Champions League knockout is like my drug. I just love watching
and
this stage of the
me
competition.
and me and Suj said that towards the end of the podcast yesterday that we titled "Is the Premier League boring?" We said the Champions League games this week will be interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like
Why is that? Because you would expect more tension, but is it just there's too much good attacking quality? Is that what it is?
I don't even necessarily think it's that. I think I've said it for ages. I have this feeling that people take more risk in the Champions League because there's that jeopardy as a knockout, and like you see moments, right? Like I mean, City, Real Madrid last year was bangers and stuff, and you see goals outside the box. I think people just take more risk, and I think the latter stages you do then get the level of attacking quality, like you say, and I think the level of tempo goes up, the level of pace, power. It's like it's the raw ingredients of what makes you fall in love with football multiplied in the latter stages of the best tournament at club level, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely amazing. And like I said, for years when Arsenal weren't in it, I tune in religiously to it. I absolutely love the knockout stages of the Champions League.
But the finals aren't like that. Here's a question for you.
No,
Who was the last person scoring a Champions League final that was on the losing side? I wish I'd asked this at the start now.
say that again. The last
Who
person
was
to
the last
score.
person to score in a side that lost the Champions League final? It was for a Premier League team.
Was it? No, Chelsea beat Man City 1-0, didn't they?
Yeah,
You lost to Liverpool 1-0. Was it Liverpool against Real Madrid?
correct.
I can't remember who scored for them though.
Sadio Mane.
Ah,
So that's 2018.
wow.
So all the finals since have been 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah, no, the finals I always think are quite cagey, but yeah, the kind of usually for me the round of 16 to the semis, I think they're absolutely incredible level of football, personally.
Yes, good luck to the villains tonight. Clash of Correspondents has said tomorrow Newcastle versus Palace with Simon Bibby and Rory McLoughlin-Dowd. Spoiler. Rory don't fancy Palace's chances much in this stuff. Always got to be said.
I mean, it's
and
tough
gives
fixtures.
and gives quite a bit of a warning about game week 33 as well. I think that's a really important listen, and obviously good coverage of Newcastle assets for 32 and beyond as well. Ask James is scheduled for 2 o'clock on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/PlanetFPL. And if you want to smash a like, the sub button doesn't cost anything. A 5-star review goes a really long way for the audio listeners. Enjoy it the rest of your Wednesday, guys. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.